We now come to the urgent question. Shadow Chancellor Sir Melstride.
To ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer if she will make a statement on the planned changes to business rates for the retail, hospitality and leisure sectors.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Colleagues will have heard what the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have said on this matter in recent days. I'm not going to add further comments on the specifics at this question, and when there are further comments to be made, I'm sure they'll be made, Mr Speaker, in the usual way. At the budget, the Government announced a comprehensive set of reforms to business rates. We have created a new sustainable system with permanently lower multipliers for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses. Business rates are, in line with the usual timelines, revalued every 3 years, and new valuations, which were set in train by the previous government, come into effect in April of this year. It was right, Mr Speaker, to support businesses during COVID. However, the previous government went into the election with plans to scrap the temporary support entirely in 2025, and if they had won re-election, they would have removed it overnight in April of last year. If the opposition had intended to extend the relief, then why did they not say so, and why was it not included in their forecasts or projections? We, on this side of the House, Mr Speaker, have chosen a different path. We extended the support at a lower rate in 2025-26 and are slowly unwinding it over the coming 3 years with the help of £4.3 billion of transitional support. I think all members can agree that it isn't sustainable to have a £1.7 billion annual temporary COVID tax relief to still remain fully in place at the end of the decade. At the same time, Mr Speaker, our reforms to rebalance the underlying Glad that someone is enjoying them. At the same time, Mr Speaker, our reforms to rebalance the underlying design of the business rate system towards high street businesses will be implemented in April. These new lower tax rates for RHL businesses will be introduced for 750,000 businesses, funded by a higher rate on the most valuable properties, including online giants. This is worth almost £1 billion and means that smaller high street businesses will have a tax rate 25% lower than for businesses with the largest properties. This has been supported by a significant support package, as I said, worth £4.3 billion over the next 3 years. As a result, Mr Speaker, over half of ratepayers will see their bills either flat or falling next year, and around a third of properties pay no business rates at all, as they receive 100% small business rates relief. I look forward to supplementary questions from the Shadow Chancellor and other members, and I look forward to seeing whether the Shadow Chancellor can keep a straight face, given he knows that his government never did enough for our high streets. 7,000 pubs were closed over the 14 years that they were in power. Shops were shuttered on high streets up and down the country. Council services that keep our high streets clean and vibrant were cut to the bone. Investment was down, and the public suffered from the longest squeeze on living standards on record. That is the legacy for our communities, and is one that we are turning around.
Sir Melstride.
Mr Speaker, that was a complete non-response. The Minister says that he will make a statement in the future in the usual way. We can only assume that will be via the media and not this House. And Mr Speaker, of all the excuses for a U-turn that we've had from this government, this one simply beggars belief. The Minister expects us to accept that the government simply did not know what the impact of these changes would have been when they announced them. That is astonishing. So could I ask the Minister, why did they announce crippling rises in business rates without bothering to check who would be hit the hardest? But worse still, Mr Speaker, we now know from the Chief Executive of the Valuation Office Agency, who appeared before the Select Committee last week, that ministers were provided with the data on revaluations before the budget. So we are left with questions not only about whether the government's excuse is reasonable, but also about whether it is indeed correct. So can the Minister clarify what specific information was given to ministers on the level of increases that businesses would be facing and when? Mr Speaker, businesses are now in a terrible limbo over what their bills will look like over the coming years. The government has indicated that a change is to be announced, for pubs at least, but there has been no official statement on this. And that is why this afternoon we have had to drag this Minister before the House. So could the Minister Answer the following additional questions. Can he at least make clear which sectors will be in line for further support? Will it be just pubs? And if so, why is the government refusing to help the wider retail, hospitality and leisure sectors, some of whom are seeing even higher increases in their rates? Will the new support be temporary or a permanent cut in bills, as we have called for? How much will it cost? And will this be funded by yet more government borrowing? And will he apologise now to the thousands of local businesses up and down our country who have been so sorely let down by this shambolic Labour government?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He said that I was dragged to the House. Very, very much not the case. I'm very happy to take questions from the Shadow Chancellor and from members opposite and on government benches.
Can I just help the Minister a little bit? I did grant a UQ for this to happen. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't granted it, so I'm not quite sure the two are compatible, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I fully respect your decision to grant an urgent question. It
don't need any help from over here.
It was the specific use of the word dragged, Mr. Speaker, that I did take some objection to, which doesn't have any comment on your decision to bring a question. Mr. Speaker, in answer to some of the questions raised by the Shadow Chancellor, the key thing on the valuations is that we are implementing the revaluations that his government set in train. Treasury ministers holding a similar role to me a good few years ago put in place the process for the revaluations that are coming in place from April 2026. Those are set on property values from 2024. And yes, there is an unwind from the pandemic in terms of increases in businesses' property values as a result of businesses recovering from the pandemic. And we were aware, yes, of the impact of that valuation, and we were aware of the fact that there were the previous government, Mr. Speaker, didn't have any plans whatsoever to extend the temporary pandemic support. We extended it for 1 year, and then we, over the course of the next 3 years, are phasing it out with the support of £4.3 billion of decisions from the government through our transitional relief scheme. I'm not going to comment on speculation, Mr. Speaker, in this place and now, but what I will say, he refers to borrowing. Over the course of this Parliament, we're going to see the fastest reduction in borrowing of any G7 economy. Borrowing is set to fall in every single year of the forecast. Borrowing is set to fall in every single year of the forecast. Because of the decisions that the Chancellor made at the budget, we have doubled our headroom against our fiscal rules, and we're seeing a warm response from private sector investors and the markets as a result of the decisions that this government has taken.
Chair of the Select Committee, Dame Meg Hillier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many pubs in my constituency of Hackney South and Shoreditch are seeing eye-watering increases in business rates. And we know from the Valuation Office Agency, which gave evidence to the Select Committee last week, that the formula that was used is the same formula that's been used for 20 years. So it should have been no surprise that this was going to happen. Yet we learned in that meeting, as the Shadow Chancellor said, that there are over 2,000 pubs with a doubling of their business rates. This government came in with a mission to transform business rates. The government inherited a part-way through valuation cycle. But regardless of what may or may not happen to the hospitality sector, where are the plans for reform of business rates in the medium to long term?
I thank my honourable friend for her question and her leadership of the Treasury Select Committee. At the budget, we set out the first significant fundamental reform of the business rate system that we have ever seen. For the first time now, there is a very significant divergence in the tax rate paid by businesses on our high street and the very largest businesses, including those online giants. That means, Mr. Speaker, the tax rate is around 13 pence lower for those businesses than the largest ones. That's a 25% reduction. It cost around £1 billion, and that's a £1 billion reduction for those businesses on the high street, paid for by higher taxes on those who can most afford it.
Daisy Cooper, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. These business rates changes are going to hammer high streets, and on top of the jobs tax, there are many businesses that have already decided to shut up shop. Getting data out of this government has been like getting blood from a stone, and every question that I'm about to ask I have already asked before. But, Mr Speaker, let me try again. Why did the government set an expectation that it was going to reduce the business rates multiplier by the full 20p discount for retail, hospitality and leisure, and then not use the maximum powers that it gave itself to do just that? Does the government accept that lots of small businesses have made investment decisions and hiring decisions based on the expectation that this government made, and will they apologise to those businesses for raising their expectations and dashing them? Can the government finally tell us how many business premises have been brought into paying business rates for the first time? Last Tuesday, we learnt that the Valuation Office had sent the Treasury data drops on a regular basis over the last 12 months. What did ministers know and when? The VOA also confirmed that it had told the Treasury that more than 5,000 pubs would see their business rates double. So how is it possible, Mr Speaker, that ministers didn't know? Can I ask, finally, Mr Speaker, whatever the government is considering, can they confirm it will apply to all hospitality and not just to pubs? And will the government consider our Liberal Democrat fully costed plan for an emergency VAT cut for hospitality?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On the point around 20p versus 5p, we did legislate for up to a 20p reduction in the multiplier for RHL businesses, but that did not set an expectation that we would go that far. That sets the bounds within which the government could choose to operate, and we chose, as our first step on our significant reform to the business rate system, to reduce that multiplier by 5p, which reduces the taxes paid in total by RHL businesses, retail, hospitality and leisure, by almost £1 billion, and increases the tax take from those largest businesses by an equivalent amount. When it comes to the data, many of the questions that honourable members ask, Mr Speaker, are the answers to them are very easy to find in the published data by the VOA, which publishes very detailed breakdowns of the changes in the values to properties between the different revaluation periods. These are all published on the government's website. And, Mr Speaker, I won't take I don't want to say lectures, but suggestions from members opposite in the Liberal Democrats on the issue of VAT. When they were in power, they chose, along with the Conservatives, to whack up VAT, a decision that pushed up inflation and added to the cost of living for people up and down the country.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The £4 billion package that's in the budget is very welcome, but the manifesto commitment was to replace the business rate system, not tinker with it or subsidise it. Now, pubs alone are going to see bill increases of 4% this year, alongside VAT thresholds which are strangling hospitality businesses along the high street, on top of a tax compliance bill for small business of £25 billion, not least because HMRC doesn't answer 4 million phone calls a year. So can I repeat the question posed by the Chair of the Treasury Select Committee, which is, when is the government going to table comprehensive, radical reform that meets the test of the manifesto commitment?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and at the budget we also published further updates on our work to transform the business rate system more broadly. There are things that we want to look at, for example, a switch from a slab system to a slice system, which should support and encourage investment. We've already extended small business rates relief, which was confirmed at the budget by the Chancellor, so that businesses that expand from 1 to 2 premises cannot have that disincentive. But there are more things that we want to look at that are included in that consultation. And of course, we will continue to engage with businesses on our high streets up and down the country, and businesses large and small, to see what more we can do to continue our work of reforming and improving the business rate system.
Sir Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Some of my publicans are facing a threefold increase in rates. They've seen the speculation that's been briefed out by the Treasury into the newspapers, but they are still waiting. But they haven't got long to wait until they have to pay these increased bills. Can the Minister give some indication when there's going to be clarity, not just to publicans, but also to retailers?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's really important to be clear about the fact that there will be no pub that is seeing their business rates bill go up by 3 times this year. No, that's simply not the case, Mr. Speaker. It is true that there are some businesses who have seen significant increases in their valuations, but this year the government is capping the increase in business rates bills at either £800, 5%, 15% or 30%, depending on the size of the property. So yes, it may be the case that it could be higher, it could be a large percentage if it's a move up to £800, but for the vast majority of businesses, Mr. Speaker, the increases in their bills this year, because of the intervention that the government is taking, providing over £2 billion of support this year, will limit the rise in bills for businesses in the coming year, Mr. Speaker.
Eccles.
And I welcome noises from the department that there may be additional support for pubs, but it's not just pubs, it is all hospitality businesses, including music venues like Claptrap the Venue, Katie Fitzgerald's in my constituency, are being massively impacted by the perfect storm of new VOA, end of COVID-related reliefs and rising energy costs. And I also just want to mention service-based industries as well, hair salons, beauty, indoor play. They've got limited opportunities to claim back VAT as labour is the highest cost in those businesses. So please, when you're considering any additional support measures to hospitality, please can all businesses be included in that?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question. Hospitality businesses are the cornerstone of our communities, Mr. Speaker, providing life and vibrancy to high streets up and down the country. And the government is committed to continuing to support their growth and their success. We really value both the work that employees in that sector do. I believe there are around 2 million people who work in hospitality across the country, Mr. Speaker, and the work of the business owners who are seeking to grow and expand their hospitality businesses. And precisely because we value their work and the work of businesses on the high street, we fundamentally redesign the transitional relief scheme so that it takes as its jumping off point the 40% reduction in bills as a result of this government's decision to extend the pandemic-related relief, something that the previous government hadn't costed and hadn't funded, and it would have ended overnight if they had won the general election in 2024.
Dame Harriett Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The problem is that the November Red Book said that the High Street will benefit from permanently lower business rates for retail, hospitality and leisure. And yet the reality for businesses up and down the land is that this is something that they feel has been entirely misleading. We've now had briefing to the newspapers that there's going to be a change, but the Minister today is saying that that's not happening. He's saying that we need to be part of the normal processes, which I interpret as meaning next spring's statement. So can the Minister tell those businesses who are lying awake at night worried about these increases when some relief is actually on its way?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The changes at the budget did lead to a reduction in the tax rate paid by businesses on the high street as a result of the reforms that this government have brought in. We've been very clear about the need to start the work to rebalance the business rate system to support our high streets. And yes, it is the case that because the pandemic relief is being unwound over the course of the coming years, something that the previous government would have done overnight in 2025 if they'd have won the general election, and because of the increase in business rate values, because we're now coming out of the pandemic, there are some businesses seeing increases in their bills, and that's why we've capped those increases significantly this year and over the coming 3 years, providing £4 billion of support. And on the specific point in terms of updates in the usual way, it is of course possible, Mr Speaker, for ministers to make statements in the House.
Toby Perkins.
Very much indeed, Mr Speaker. My honourable friend's absolutely right to say that the party opposite has no credibility on this. Of course we know that if they had won the election, we either would have seen these increases quicker or the black hole would have been even bigger, would have been one or the other. But nonetheless, it is true that there are many pubs that are really concerned and are under the impression that further help is coming. So they are trying to make accounting decisions right now. Can he say any more about whether they are going to be seeing exactly the bills that they expect right now, or will further help be coming before April?
Minister.
I am grateful to my honourable friend for making the very important point that the previous government didn't have any plans to continue to extend the pandemic support. And on his other question, I'm not going to comment today, Mr Speaker, on the speculation. He and others can see the words that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have said about this at this dispatch box and in various media interviews. I don't have more to say on that.
Bobby Dean.
Mr Speaker, as already been mentioned, in the Labour manifesto they committed to reforming the business rate system, and in the Red Book for the budget they talked about permanently lower business rates for retail, hospitality and leisure. Now, if you're a business owner, that gives you the impression that your bills are going to be lower. And this get out about the rates being low when the government knew that the transitional reliefs were being phased out and that the rateable values were going up substantially is not cutting it for those businesses who made plans accordingly. Now, we heard on the Treasury Committee last week from the Valuation Office that the government knew for over a year about the size of the increase in rateable values. So why has this backlash taken the government by surprise?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As I have set out already today, the government was aware that there was a revaluation taking place. It was a revaluation that was initiated by the previous government, took account of property values in 2024 and will come into place from April of this year. We were also aware that it was right, and I believe members on all sides of the House would probably agree that by the end of the decade it wouldn't be appropriate to have the full pandemic relief in place, almost 10 years on from the height of the pandemic. And in the round, as a result of those decisions, we came forward with a really significant package, Mr Speaker, of £4.3 billion of protection for businesses across the country, large and small, high street and non-high street, in order to help them adjust to the potential for higher bills that some are experiencing. I would say too, it is the case, as I said in my opening remarks, that around half of businesses are seeing their business rates bills either flat or falling, Mr Speaker.
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. While pubs have a powerful lobby, the independents on our high street, whether cafes or retail outlets, don't. And I have been poring over the spreadsheets of the impact it's going to have on York. Some businesses seeing business rates rising by 93%, little retail outlets, and simply they don't have the resilience. So can the Minister set out what he's going to do for independents to ensure that they are going to survive past March this year?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, York High Street and my honourable friend's constituency is a beautiful and wonderful place with lots of fantastic businesses. I used to work there for a time, and I know that members on all sides of the House really do value the businesses that keep their high streets both vibrant and thriving. And Mr Speaker, we are taking steps, and we have taken steps at the budget to support high street businesses through our £4.3 billion of support, and we will continue to engage with members and with businesses on the steps we can take to continue to support our high street businesses.
Paul Holmes.
Mr Speaker, the Minister is talking in numbers, but actually out there on the doorsteps and on the streets and the high streets, I've met a cafe owner and a publican whose businesses are busier than ever. They are selling more drinks and more food, and yet their top line is shrinking because of the decisions being made by this government. And indeed, One of my landladies was in tears with me about whether she should carry on directly because of the policies of this government. What advice would the Minister give her?
Minister.
I hope, Mr Speaker, that the honourable member, when he was in conversation with businesses in his constituency, would have explained that this year, for example, if a pub has a rateable value of less than £100,000, the policy as was set out of the budget would have capped those increases at a 15% increase. I think it is really important that members in this place do all they can to help business owners pick through the complexities of the business rate system. It is a complicated system. It has many different reliefs, and there's a difference both between the tax rates that are paid, the relief that is applied, and the rateable value of the property. Of course, it is the case that some businesses are seeing their rateable values increase as we unwind from the pandemic, but that's precisely why the government came forward with the package of support that it did at the budget.
Jim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The hospitality and leisure sector in Liverpool is one of the largest employers and contributes quite significantly to the local economy. However, it is facing significant challenges at the moment, with the average hospitality business now facing an increase of over 48,000 in business rate over the next 3 years. Double the national average and a serious threat to sustainability. And this is compounded by 20% VAT rate, one of the highest in Europe, compared with Germany, which has reinstated 7% to support its sector. So can the Minister explain what targeted support will be provided to safeguard jobs, prevent closures and redundancies in the hospitality and leisure sector in Liverpool? And will he come to Liverpool to speak to the business owners, please? Thank you.
Minister.
I like to make sure when I'm up for Labour Party conference, to enjoy the pubs and the hospitality that is available in Liverpool. It is a fantastic and a vibrant city, and I know that the constituencies and the areas in the middle of the city have some of the highest number of pubs and hospitality businesses in the country. And she, like I, will really value those businesses, the work that the business owners do, and of course the work that the employees do, working what can be quite tough and demanding jobs. And precisely because we want to support hospitality, that is why the government at the budget redesigned the transitional relief scheme so that it applies with the 40% reduction as the baseline, rather than unwinding the support in full as the previous government would have done overnight. We also said at the budget that we'll be appointing a retail, hospitality and leisure envoy, and I look forward to that announcement in due course.
Can I just help a little bit? We're going to run this for an hour from the start, so 4:40. The Minister can help members get in. That will be really useful. Monica Harding.
Mr Speaker, perhaps the Prime Minister on his much heralded cost of living tour might like to come and visit the pubs and cafes of my constituency in East and Walton if they let him in, who are being squeezed to breaking point by this government, while constituents watch their wallets because of tax rises. Hospitality venues are the lifeblood of my high street and create the jobs we need for young people. Yeah. So will the government act now by fully using business rates relief and introducing an emergency VAT cut for hospitality, protect jobs, pubs, restaurants and the lifeblood of my
Thank you, Mr Speaker. One of the things that the government is doing to support businesses up and down the country is to bring back economic stability. We've had interest rates cut 6 times under this government, which will reduce borrowing costs for businesses small and large, and we're doing all we can to boost living standards, Mr Speaker, so that people have got more money in their pockets to spend in hospitality businesses. We've seen faster increases in wages in the first year of this government than we did in the whole first 10 years under the Conservatives.
Chris Webb.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I do find it a bit rich from the party opposite to be raising this issue after around 7,000 pubs and bars closed under their watch. So it's very rich, and that is felt in places like Blackpool and across the country. But will the Minister continue to engage with the hospitality sector, for UK hospitality and other small businesses, to ensure that we get this right? Because many are struggling after 14 years of the party opposite, but especially after COVID, and we need to support our high streets that have been forgotten about for far too long.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his question and for his engagement on this important issue and the work that he does on the APPG. And yes, the government will continue to engage with sector bodies like UK Hospitality and on this and other important matters that are important for the hospitality industry.
Mark Pritchard.
The Minister doesn't have to defect to reform to get a pint. And I'm very happy to show him round Shropshire pubs and all the pubs that are in the villages and in the market towns. And I'll show him that pubs are not just about having non-alcoholic and alcoholic drinks. They lie at the very heart, often, of village communities, where local charities, the WI, pensioner groups, whatever it might be, meet there because the post office is closed or the shop is closed. So can I genuinely invite the Minister to get out of London, get out of the Beltway, out of the bubble, come to Shropshire? He won't be allowed in, of course, but I can bring him a pint outside when the warmer weather comes. But genuinely, I've appealed to the Minister, join me in Shropshire and hear firsthand what pub landlords and owners have to say.
Last orders. Come on, Minister.
I don't quite know what the current government position is on whether or not pubs are allowed to have takeaway pints, but I would hope that they would be allowed in Shropshire if I were to visit. But in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, North London, I have around 30 pubs, and I have many conversations with publicans, both locally and in my role as Exchequer Secretary.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker. I refer to my register of interest and my chairship of the APPG for beer. Will the Minister accept that pubs are anchor employers on our high streets? And will he please ask the Chancellor to expedite a package of rate relief and duty reduction aimed specifically at sustaining these really important jobs in hospitality?
Minister.
I would strongly agree with my honourable friend that pubs are important anchor institutions. I know that she cares deeply about the businesses in her constituency and is a strong representative for them. Under the previous government, we saw more than one pub closing every single day, 7,000 fewer pubs in our communities. This government will do all it can to continue to support publicans and those institutions that are a lifeblood of communities up and down the country.
Richard Tice.
Mr. Speaker, an absolute shambolic, chaotic furore around this business rates since the budget. When will the Minister do the right thing and confirm to the House exactly when we're going to get some clarity on these changes? And is he aware just how despairing businesses are in my constituency of Boston and Skegness and around the country because of the uncertainty, the increased costs? And is he aware that they're reducing opening hours, reducing employ hours, and will he do the decent thing and apologise?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wasn't sure whether the what the honourable member was referring to when he said it was shambolic, chaotic, and there was a furore. It's probably his own party that wouldn't be able to run anything in any brewery, let alone a whole country, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I gently say to the Minister, when he says it's job of MPs to help publicans and hospitalities understand the system, they do understand. Their frustration doesn't come from not understanding the help but actually the system they're working in. And several things can be true at once. It is true that there is a permanently lower rate. It is true there is a £4 billion worth of package to soften the blow for those that have increased business rates. But it's also true that when that goes away, breweries like Titanic Brewery in Stoke-on-Trent will have an overall business rate increase of 130%, with some of their venues seeing 400% increases. So is the Minister able to set out what specific support they can look forward to in the next 3 years? Or can he give them clarity about what they need to budget for? Because as a result of these changes, some pubs will close around this country, and we need to avoid that.
Minister.
I would totally agree with my honourable friend that we do need to avoid the situation that we saw in the last 14 years, where we had 7,000 pubs closing under the Conservatives, around 4,000 closed in the first 5 years when the Lib Dems were in coalition with them. This government will do all we can to support pubs, hospitality and our high streets, Mr. Speaker. That is why we set out a really strong set of proposals at the budget, those that he mentions, including the £4.3 billion of support.
Sir Byrne.
Mr. Speaker, when is a U-turn not a U-turn? And I would suggest it is when the government realises it's made a terrible mistake, briefs that it's going to change the policy, and then sends a minister to this House to explain that nothing's changing at all. Does he realise how much despair people are feeling? And this isn't a problem of a transition. This is a fundamental flaw in the whole concept of business rates that hits the smallest businesses the hardest. And what there needs to be is our policy, which is to leave this transition permanently in place, this rates relief permanently in place, until there is a new system that exempts the smaller businesses from this punitive tax.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the party opposite had 14 years to implement significant reforms to the business rate system. They could have changed the system with significant underlying reforms to mean that the tax rate paid by high street businesses was lower than the tax rate paid by the largest businesses, but they didn't. So I don't think we can trust a word they say when it comes to reform to the business rate system. They didn't take the opportunity when they had their chance. It's easy to say things. Instead, on this side of the government, we are getting on with doing the job of reforming and improving our business rate system.
Emma Lewell. Deputy Speaker, I want to thank my honourable friend for his engagement so far on this issue. It will come as no surprise to him that a cut to VAT and the maximum 20p discount for business rates applied across hospitality, not just pubs, is what is needed. Because nobody wants to drink in a pub surrounded by boarded-up cafes, restaurants and B&Bs. Can I urge the government to act quickly and, as a gesture of their intent, withdraw the statutory instrument that enforces the much lower 5p business rate discounts this April?
I want to thank my honourable friend for her sustained and important engagement and advocacy, Madam Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the businesses in her constituency on the high streets, both hospitality, cafes, pubs and the independent shops. She has explained to me really clearly the impact of various changes that previous governments and this government have announced on the businesses in her constituency, and I will continue to engage with her and other strong advocates of the hospitality industry on this and other important issues that affect our high streets.
Sarah Olney.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. This government has already imposed additional employment costs on our small and high street businesses, and they're still struggling with sky-high energy costs that the government have yet to alleviate. And now we have these massive increases in business rates. Is there anything at all that the Minister can say at the dispatch box today that will give hope to our small and medium businesses on our high streets that are wondering whether they can continue, or to our entrepreneurs who are wondering if they can get started?
Madam Deputy Speaker, this government backs small businesses and backs our high streets. We want to do all we can to continue to support businesses up and down this country, Madam Deputy Speaker. That's why we announced significant reforms to business rates at the budget, making sure that we could have a permanently lower multiplier for high street businesses and providing significant support worth £4.3 billion over the coming 3 years.
Janet Derby.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Libraries and community centres are central to communities like mine in Lewisham East, and they make an excellent contribution to the local areas. I'm wondering if the Minister can say if there are any planned changes to their business rates and how else they can be supported in our local community.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question. She is right to highlight the role that libraries and community centres in her constituency and across the country play in providing places for people to socialise, to learn new skills, to grow and develop. I think of the libraries that lots of parents in my constituency take their children to get their first books to read. The reforms to the business rate system that we set in place at the budget will protect any businesses or premises that are seeing large increases in their rateable values, Madam Deputy Speaker. But I'm always happy to have conversations with honourable friends on what other steps more broadly the government could take to support important institutions such as those that she raises.
Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. We all look forward to whatever it is the government has decided to change here. But can I ask the Minister to look at 2 points? Can you first of all look at when appeals can be made to valuations? At the moment, they have to wait till 1st of April, and that simply isn't giving any confidence to the sector. And can I also ask him to look at wedding venues in particular, who suffered enormously during COVID and are likely, as things stand at the moment, not to benefit from any relief that he's going to announce in the next few weeks?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for raising those points. Yet the process for businesses who are not satisfied with the valuation that was provided by the VO is to go through the check, challenge and appeal process. In my role as the Minister with responsibility for HMRC, I will of course be doing all I can to make sure that the performance of the VO is as good as it can be in terms of helping businesses get through that process. That is really very important, not least given we are seeing a rebound from the pandemic in terms of the values of many businesses across the country.
Gary McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I hope the Minister will join me in congratulating East Bristol's Lost and Grounded, which has just appeared in the Times' list of the 8 best breweries in Britain. He may recall that just before the budget, I brought another East Bristol brewery, Left-Handed Giant, to meet him and other ministers at number 11, where they made very clear the pressures that were facing the hospitality sector. Can he give me assurances that, as a first step, we need to sort out the revaluation shambles, but can he also make sure that the consideration of a differential rate of VAT, as we see in so many other countries on the continent, is also on the Treasury's radar?
I would, of course, like to join with her in congratulating the brewery in her constituency. I know in Bristol there is a vibrant, small and independent brewery sector, and lots of fantastic places where people can choose to have a drink if they so wish. Just the same as her, I want to make sure that this government does what it can to continue to support businesses like the one that she mentions and those operating up and down the country. One of the things that this government is seeking to do is to make sure that people have got more money in their pockets so they can go out and spend it. That's why I'm really glad that under the first year of this Labour government we saw faster increases in wages than we did in the whole first 10 years under the Conservatives.
John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As well as pubs, hotels and restaurants, is the Minister aware that many grassroots music venues, some of which have never been liable for rates, now face demands for thousands of pounds? The Music Venues Trust has said that these are not bills, they are closure notices. Will he ensure that grassroots music venues are included in any relief that he provides and are recognised as critical creative infrastructure?
Minister.
On the issue of businesses being brought into business rates for the first time, that was something that we considered before the budget, and we have set out at the budget this supporting small businesses scheme. So those businesses that are paying no business rates at the moment but are coming into business rates for the first time will have their increases capped at £800.
Alex Serval.
Thank you. First of all, I want to refer to a register of interest as the co-chair of the Music APPG. Live performance venues, vast majority have got alcohol licences. Many are pubs, but the vast majority are not. In my constituency, Leeds Arena is being dragged into the highest rate of business rates alongside large multiple retailers. Without live performance venues, we won't have any future Ed Sheerans, any future Darcy Bustles, any future Idris Elbas or Simon Armitages, bringing in the export income that the Treasury Minister desperately needs. Is he considering live performance venues when he's thinking about the changes and not just pubs?
Minister.
My honourable friend is right to raise the importance of live performance venues. They not only support our economy directly through having people visit the venues and enjoy a good night out and a good performance, but Madam Deputy Speaker, they also support the local economy more broadly with people travelling to and from, choosing to go out for a meal before. And I and he do value the contribution that they make to our national life and to our economy.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Business rates in Scotland are, of course, devolved. But businesses, particularly in the hospitality, leisure and retail sectors, are not immune to the impact of these measures as they spread across the United Kingdom and undermine the economy. So can the Minister tell me if there has been any effort to sit down with the Scottish Government ministers to discuss a national strategy and how we can help businesses throughout the United Kingdom?
The honourable member is right, of course, that business rates is a policy that is devolved, and I am in conversation with the governments in Scotland and Wales about a number of changes that were announced at the budget to taxation policy, and I would be happy, of course, to continue those conversations. We do need to make sure that we that we are continuing to support these vital businesses up and down the country, and that is why the Chancellor set out the package of support that she did at the budget.
Tulip today.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Over 20,000 people have rallied around to try and save the local cafes on Hampstead Heath, including the likes of James McAvoy and Benedict Cumberbatch. And I recently spoke to one of the owners, Alfonso, who brought home to me the importance of having local cafes which are affordable and accessible. Could I ask the Minister, as a fellow North London MP, is he going to join the campaign to save the local cafes on Hampstead Heath? And is he going to reassure my constituents that protecting small businesses is at the heart of government policy?
I thank my honourable friend for that question. If I get time and the parking permits in Camden allow, I do like to drive down and have a walk in her constituency. I haven't yet been aware of this campaign, but I look forward to talking more with her about it. I'm sure, on a personal level, I will do all I can to get my tea and coffee from those relevant establishments.
Stuart Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I am speaking to loads of businesses across South Shropshire in the retail, hospitality and leisure sectors, and what they're telling me is the polar opposite of what the Minister is saying from the dispatch box there. And it shows that the government is completely detached from reality. There is a U-turn coming on this, but there are many businesses that are lying awake at night worrying how they're going to get through this. Can the government do it quickly?
Minister.
It is just worth pausing on the fact that, yes, there are some businesses who are set to see increases in their bills, but over half of ratepayers will see their bills either flat or falling in the next year. In part, this is because of the support that the government has provided to businesses that was set out at the budget.
Mary Calify.
Madam Deputy Speaker, hospitality and leisure businesses in the City of Durham are incredibly concerned about their future. So if we are truly to level the playing field between the high street and online giants, does the Minister agree with me that it's time we show our much loved pubs, cafes, restaurants and hotels the same level of support that distribution warehouses, office blocks and supermarkets are receiving?
We are seeking to give even more support to those businesses than the very largest ones. Under previous governments, it was the case that there would have been the same tax rate for those businesses, but because of the changes that we put forward at the budget, the multiplier within business rates for the smallest businesses on high streets in Durham and across the country is 25% lower than the tax rate that is paid for by the largest businesses. This is the first significant fundamental reform to the underlying tax rates in business rate system in a very long time, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Sammy Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Businesses right across the United Kingdom are feeling, especially small businesses, whether it's in retail, hospitality or pubs. And that's in no small part to action of government. Increased taxes, increased energy prices and increased regulation. And rates play a big part in that. Can the Minister assure us that if there is to be further additional money to give support, that will be ring-fenced and not given to the devolved administration in Northern Ireland, where the Sinn Féin Minister has simply taken the money but spent it on something else?
Minister.
The honourable member raised the issue of small businesses, and It is worth noting, Madam Deputy Speaker, that a third of properties pay no business rates at all, as they receive 100% small business rates relief, and a further 85,000 benefit from reduced bills as this support tapers away.
Steve Witherden.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Hospitality is the UK's third largest employer. When the sector is hit, jobs are affected at scale. Pubs sit at the heart of the hospitality industry. In Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr, we have 136 great pubs employing more than 1,100 people across the constituency, including the Eagles in Acrevaya, where my wife used to work behind the bar, and the Brilliant Hand in Llanarmon and Ceiriog. What steps is the Minister taking to support jobs in the hospitality sector?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. I must say I'm very jealous that he has over 100 pubs in his constituency. I only have 27 in mine, and I haven't made it round all of them yet. He is right to highlight the importance of employment and job opportunities that can be provided by the hospitality sector, with around 2 million people working in it. We know that the sector can be the first job for many people and help them get their foot on the career ladder and progress in their careers too. That is why the government provided significant support for hospitality and for businesses at the budget, and it's why I will continue to engage with my honourable friend and members on the issue of business rates and on other matters where we can support our high streets.
Adrian Ramsey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Retail, hospitality and leisure businesses are at the heart of my constituency of Waveney Valley, and yet family-run village pubs such as the Blue Boar in Walsham-le-Willows are facing significant increases in business rates from this April. So if the Minister does recognise that the current system is failing businesses, then when will he commit to meaningful reform and action, including giving local authorities greater powers to support socially and economically essential local businesses, as village pubs in rural areas undoubtedly are?
Minister.
I would be happy to talk further with the honourable member about any changes that we can make to give councils more powers in line with the issue that he raises. That isn't one that's crossed my desk before, but I would be happy to receive some correspondence on that topic.
Sarah Edwards.
2 weeks ago, I held a round table just for hospitality businesses in Tamworth to discuss the broken business rates system. And I wrote to the department with their preferences for support. The rates are crippling, and they have asked me to ask the Minister when reform is coming and how they will receive support in the interim of the reforms coming through, which is essential for my constituency and our businesses.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question and for the engagement that she has carried out with the businesses in her constituency as a strong representative of the businesses and the people in Tamworth. The government did set out some significant reforms at the budget in terms of lowering the tax rate that's paid by businesses on our high street. We lowered it by 5p compared to where it would have otherwise been. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, that means that the tax rate paid by businesses on our high street is a quarter lower than it is for the very largest businesses that can afford higher taxes. And that's why we rebalanced the system with £1 billion extra tax revenue from those largest businesses and transferred that to businesses on the high street in her constituency and across the country.
Mike Wood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, the tables the Minister refers to shows that the median rateable value for pubs and wine bars is increasing by a third. Now, he visited the Prince of Wales to help them reopen last spring. Their rateable value is going up from £49,200 to £62,500, the pub in his constituency. So that's pushing them into the higher band and higher bills. So when we do have the inevitable U-turn, will the Minister make sure that it genuinely does deliver lower business rates, not just for the Prince of Wales in his constituency, but for all hospitality venues around the country?
I thank the honourable member for giving me a chance to talk about the Prince of Wales in my constituency. It is a fantastic pub, which I'm glad that me and colleagues in the local Barnet Council were able to save. I was there just a couple of weeks back after a canvassing session out on the doorsteps. He is right to point out that there are some pubs who are seeing increases in their rateable values as a result of the unwind from the pandemic, and that is precisely why we've come forward with the support that we have, capping the increases in business rates bills in this and in subsequent years. And in general, the point around pubs being at the heart of our communities is totally true. The Prince of Wales in East Barnet, the Griffin in Whetstone, I could go on, there's some fantastic pubs in Chipping Barnet, and I'm sure in his constituency too.
Simon Arthur.
Thank you. I'm just a little bit surprised by the mock rage coming from the benches opposite when actually over the last decade and a half absolutely thousands of pubs have closed. So can I also thank the Minister from the Stroud publicans to agree to review this system so that we can get a really practical solution for pubs? And can I confirm that all business rates, including those on the high streets, will be reviewed so we can have a proper level playing field with the out-of-town institutions? Thank you.
Minister.
It is really important that we level the playing field between the business rates paid by the high streets in Stroud and his constituency, which he is a strong and active representative of, and the business rates paid by the largest online retailers and those with warehouses and distribution centres. That's why at the budget we implemented those reforms to rebalance the system through a lower tax rate on those high street businesses and a higher one on those who can afford it. And I thank him for raising the point that members opposite want to keep dodging, which is that on their watch, 7,000 pubs closed across the country, hollowing out our communities and making our high streets and our places where we live less vibrant and less sociable.
David Reid.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've heard from many struggling businesses across my constituency of Exmouth and Exeter East about the increasing pressures that they're facing. Now, just to give one example, under the government's original plan, a small independent shop in Exmouth would have seen rateable values rise by about 50%, wiping out the benefits of the lower small business multiplier, stripping it of eligibility for relief and leaving it facing extra costs of around £600 a month. Now, does the Minister understand how damaging this is for business confidence and viability? And can he please set out a timeline for when these types of small businesses can expect to receive support?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I think one of the challenges with the questions that I'm getting today from the members opposite is that they seem to be suggesting that the government shouldn't have gone ahead at all with the post-pandemic revaluations. They were revaluations that were set in train by the previous government, and I don't know about the honourable member, but I think that if there are businesses in his constituency or in my own that have seen a decrease in their rateable value since the pandemic for whatever reason, that it would be right for the system to be updated to reflect the post-pandemic values. That's what we've done, and he cites a particular example. Of course, there will be businesses that are seeing increases in their rateable values, and that's precisely why we have stepped in with the £4.3 billion of transitional support that the Chancellor announced at the budget last year.
Jonathan Davies.
Much, Madam Deputy Speaker, I welcome the assurance that half of businesses will see their business rates flat or falling, and that's even after the end of the COVID-era support and the post-pandemic review initiated by the previous government. But I wonder if I could put on his radar research by the Music Venues Trust, which estimates 600 grassroots music venues may see quite significant rises, and that's probably because of the valuation. Significant areas are backstage, are dedicated to production or performance and can't be used by for revenue-raising purposes. So will you meet with me and representatives from the sector so that we can understand this better together?
Minister.
I thank him for raising this issue, and there's something else here too, which is that many grassroots music venues are valued as pubs. There are some intricacies and complexities within the business rate system that mean that it is important when we think of pubs to also think of the grassroots music venues up and down the country. And to provide support to them and to other businesses. That's why the government stepped in with the £4.3 billion of transitional protection, that over £2 billion of which will be in place this year, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Deputy Speaker, about the budget and the impact on their business rates bill. Last week, the Business Secretary said there was no way the government could have known about the impact of their decisions, but the Valuation Office then confirmed that they had told the government and ministers about the impact of their decisions, which I think the Minister has confirmed. He's also confirmed that that data was easily accessible. So why did this happen? Was it willful ignorance, or was it incompetence, or did they just go ahead anyway?
Minister.
I'm glad that the honourable member was able to ask the exact same question that the Shadow Chancellor did. I am not going to comment on the policy-making process in the run-up to the budget.
Jessica Turl.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Most fair-minded businesses would recognise that COVID-era subsidies couldn't last forever, yet many in hospitality, including in my Bournemouth West constituency, are worried about what bill will come through for their rates in April. So can the Minister reassure these businesses and outline what transitional support we're putting in place in the short term and how we're reforming rates in the long term?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question and for her continued representation for the small businesses in her constituency in Bournemouth, where I know there is a vibrant and growing hospitality and leisure sector. We have implemented reforms to the system to rebalance business rates away from the high street and towards the online giants, and I look forward to continuing to engage with her and other members of Parliament on business rates and on other issues and other steps that this government can take to continue to support the high street and businesses in her constituency.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This morning I met with Rowley May, the landlord of the Russell Arms pub in Butler's Cross. Members of the government may recognise that it's the closest pub to Chequers, where they can drown their sorrows after an audience with the Prime Minister. That pub has seen a £17,500 business rates increase. I have heard similar horror stories from pubs like the Cock and Rabbit in the Lee and the Dinton Hermit in Ford and many others. Will the Minister at least accept that there is no more money to squeeze out of pubs that are absolutely on the brink of financial catastrophe under this government?
Minister.
This government does understand the pressures that hospitality businesses and pubs in particular are facing. One of those pressures that I've heard about very clearly is the fact that under the previous government, because they didn't invest in our energy security, because they didn't invest in making sure that businesses and families could have lower energy bills and certainty for their energy bills in the future, they saw their energy bills surge. In 2022, we saw inflation hit 11% under the previous government, and it's things like that that have made it difficult for small businesses up and down the country.
Aaron Paffey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think we all know that we are where we are precisely because of the disastrous legacy that we were left by the party opposite, who made unfunded promise after unfunded promise. So I do welcome the Minister's reassurance around transitional relief and the caps on those increases, but cafes and small businesses and hospitality in Southampton are not just concerned still about the future, they are concerned about the now. So what is the message that the Minister would give for them that this government is pro-business and does have their back?
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and when it comes to support for businesses, we are making sure that we bring back economic stability to this country with 6 interest rates cuts which reduce the cost of borrowing for businesses and for households. The economic stability that we provided have meant that wages have gone up faster in the first year of this government than they did in the whole first 10 years of the previous government. We are supporting people with the cost of living up and down the country, and we are providing stability in the corporation tax system for businesses, keeping it at the lowest rate in the G7 as a part of our commitment to our corporate tax roadmap, Madam Deputy Speaker.
With a final question, Shocker Adam.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. One of the worst things for business owners in my constituency of Leicester South is the unpredictability of running a business. They need to know, and it's simply killing them. They already have to deal with poor parking, rise in antisocial behaviour, rise in national insurance contribution, rise in business wages costs, energy costs. Now they thought they were going to have a reduction in business rate, possibly they're going to have a rise in business rate. Can the Minister from the dispatch box alleviate their fears and put them out of misery? What is it going to be? Is it going to rise or is it going to stay the same?
Minister.
We do want to provide stability in our taxation system, Madam Deputy Speaker, and one of the things that the government is seeking to do in the coming years is to continue to have economic stability, something which was lacking for so long under the previous government. That's why we're focusing on getting government borrowing down in every year of the forecast, and it will fall faster in this country than in any other G7 economy. And when it comes to business rates, the reforms that we set out the budget will rebalance the system to provide a lower, permanently lower tax rate, the multiplier for those small businesses on the high street.
And that concludes the urgent question. We'll now give a few moments for the front benches to swap over before we start the next urgent question. Thanks, Judith.